Torche, France, April 1984. The world's best board sailors gather here to take part in the first competitive series of the Windsurfing World Cup 1984. Board sailing, sometimes called windsurfing, is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. Although it first started in the United States in 1967, the spectacular growth started during the mid-70s in Europe. Today, there are more than 5 million people worldwide for whom the #1 summer sport is having fun with a board and sail. It was in 1984 in Los Angeles that board sailing first entered the ranks as an Olympic sport. The board sailing industry has grown along with the sport. Early in 1983, a group of internationally known firms, sailmakers, and board manufacturers founded the World Sailboard Manufacturers Association, WSMA. The purpose of the association, also known as the WSMA Board Sailing Pool, is to promote the growth of board sailing sport on a worldwide basis, in particular through spectacular regattas with top performers. The World Cup was launched in 1983 to carry out this objective. As with alpine skiers and Formula One cars, competitors participate within a series format. Winner of the very first WSMA World Cup was the 22-year-old American Robbie Nash, who had already won his first world title when he was only 13 years old. And here in La Torche, we'll see what chance he has to retain his World Cup title. WSMA regattas are held for fun boards only. In other words, for boards and sails which are designed to meet the toughest demands of stormy winds and waves. For the competitors, regattas under these conditions require high standards of fitness, physical skills, sailing ability, and tactics. For spectators and the media, regattas under these conditions embody the most spectacular forms of board sailing. In addition, they enable manufacturers to put prototypes of potential series models through the hardest test trials imaginable. Wind and wave conditions permitting, 3 forms of board sailing competition are held in each World Cup regatta: course racing, slalom, and wave riding. From the resulting ranking lists for the individual disciplines, the specialist champions are established. Those who perform the best in all the 3 disciplines may then call themselves overall world champion. In La Torche, course racing is the first discipline. It takes place on a circular course with only a short, close reach, but a long wind-abeam or reach course. All competitors begin each race in a massed start on the water. The total number of races in this discipline in each regatta is between 3 and 6. In this race, the Dane Tim Augustsson is in the lead, followed closely by 2 West Germans, Bjorn Schroeder and Jürgen Hunscheid. Last year, in the first WSMA World Cup Series, Hunscheid stood a very good chance of winning the world title, but had to retire prematurely when he awkwardly fell after a meters-high jump over the waves during a training session and broke a number of vertebrae in his neck. According to the doctors, it was a miracle that he survived the accident, but nevertheless, he's here again for this season. Most sections of the race are concerned with pure speed, and by the marker boys, it's a question of skill. One wrong move, and the board sailors can be suddenly lying in the water. Tim Augustsson wins this race. But in the total course racing discipline of the World Cup in La Torche, Tim takes 3rd place, behind Bjorn Schroeder and Arnaud Tellier.
Avec moutarde? Qui n'a pas mangé ma saucisse?
La Torche is a small village on the northwest coast of France, situated at the furthermost point of the western part of Brittany, lying at least 500 kilometers from Paris. However, despite the fact that it is so remote, in 1983 there were 50,000 spectators, which this year should easily be more than doubled. In total, at least 130,000 spectators will follow the events, which are spread over 12 days. Intense press coverage can also be expected. After a few unsuccessful days waiting in vain for a decent wind, a start was made on the following discipline, the slalom, which flagged off on the beach with the so-called Le Mans start. The slalom is held in the surf, thus making it easy for the public to follow in a knockout format. Competitors start in groups comprising 8 individuals, and the rest go through into the next round until the finals. The course may be varied, depending on local conditions. In slalom, the competitors use small boards. These are called sinkers, because without sufficient wind, they actually sink, sailor and all. That is also the reason for this kind of surfing competition that a minimum wind speed is prescribed in the rulebook. Obviously, this varies with each discipline, but it averages out at about 14 knots, which is roughly force 4 on the Beaufort scale. To everyone's great surprise, an unknown Frenchman, Robert Teritheau, wins the semi-final of the slalom from the favorite Robbie Nash. This was, of course, greeted with enormous enthusiasm from the French public. We're certainly going to hear more about Teritheau in the course of this World Cup season, but it's Robbie Nash, here at the start of the finals, who gets a flying start and claims victory in the slalom for himself. But the champagne goes deservedly to the Dane Tim Augustsson, who surprisingly claimed the overall lead in the La Torche World Cup, albeit with just 1 point more than his teammate Robbie Nash. The opening of the Windsurfing World Cup is over. The main part of it is past. It wasn't possible in La Torche to complete the third discipline, the wave performance, where a jury judges various maneuvers in the surf. Unfortunately, lack of wind resulted in this discipline being called off. Each World Cup lasts around 10 days, and it always depends on the wind as to whether which disciplines can be sailed. Under ideal conditions, it's possible to complete all 3, but that seldom happens. This is really inherent to the nature of windsurfing, and participants, public and organizers alike, all take this into consideration. In La Torche, the boards are loaded up once again. The participants can prepare themselves for the next regatta, on to the next location, wherever the wind blows.